Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Jake Demai, and in this video, guys, I want to talk about how I do bookkeeping on a monthly basis for my clients. I started my business about 4.5 years ago, and I think it was one of the best things I've ever done in my career. I have taken my career and I've just totally transformed it, and I've made it exciting again, and I actually enjoy going into work. I love spending time at work. The days go by super fast, and I'm making a lot of money doing it. And also, guys, a couple other things about bookkeeping that I just have to talk about because I get so excited about it. The amount of time, extra time I have with my family is like unbelievable. When I was an employee at a tax firm, I had to clock my hours in. I had to record PTO whenever I wanted to take time off. Tax seasons were awful, and I had to work 55, 60 hours per week for about 3.5 months. And it just added a level of chaos that I didn't need. I already have enough chaos with 4 kids at home, 6 and under. The work thing for me, I just don't want it to hold me back from being with my family. And so this bookkeeping company has allowed me to spend so much more time, so much more quality time with my family. Like today, for example, one of my daughters has a doctor's appointment. And so I'm going home to watch 3 of the kids for a few hours. And I'm happy about that. I don't have to use PTO for it. I don't have to tell anybody what I'm doing with my day or with my time. I can do whatever I want. And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And that's the beauty of owning a bookkeeping business is that, I'm not really there aren't emergencies that come up every day. There's nothing urgent necessarily. I make my own deadlines, and, people will disagree with my deadlines, and we'll get into it, guys. We'll get into kind of what I do, but I have created this business to fit around my life. And, there are no rules. There's no mold that you have to fit when you own a business. You can do whatever you want. If somebody hires you to do a job, then you just got to get it done. And that's all that matters, is that you're providing value to somebody and that they're paying you for it. So in this video, guys, I want to talk about what exactly I do on a monthly basis for my clients. What does it look like from start to finish? How do I do the monthly bookkeeping work, and kind of the things that I'm thinking through as I do it? Because I find that a lot of people overthink it. A lot of people do more than they need to do. And so I'm going to talk about what needs to get done, how I get it done, the things that are important to me, the things that are not important to me. And so let's jump right into exactly what I do. So right off the bat, when I onboard a client, and I have a video, I think I talk about this in some of my other videos, but when I onboard a client, that's typically when I do the most amount of communication with the client. I'm figuring out all the details of the business. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the transactions. If they have sales that run through Square or Toast, I want access to their POS platform, and I want to be able to find the reports that I need on a monthly basis. And so the first couple months, I'm figuring out the process that's needed on a monthly basis. And it's not easy. It can be tricky to get to the bottom of some of these clients. The biggest thing for me is getting view-only access to my clients' books. I have to be able to view and I have to have my own login to their bank accounts. I have to have my own login to their credit card accounts, their POS platforms, payroll, and shared spreadsheets that they might have for internal purposes. I want as much at my disposal as possible. And basically, guys, what I do is I get all of that information in the very beginning. I'm working closely with the client. We usually have a few phone calls. I have meetings with the client, and I develop a process that is going to be adhered to on a monthly basis. And it's not strict. I change it, but the first few months are really, really important. And so a lot of the difficult work is done in the beginning because it's worth it. If somebody's paying me $400 or $500 a month to do their bookkeeping, it's worth it to me to put in the extra time in the beginning to develop a rock solid, efficient process. And so that's what I do. The first few months are always going to be a little bit difficult for each client that I onboard, but I typically only onboard 1 or 2 clients per month. And so it's manageable. Now, I haven't figured out what to do about, when I get super big and where I want to separate myself from the business a little bit more, or where I'm adding 3, 4, 5 clients per month. I haven't really gotten that far. I don't know if I need to think that far ahead. The business has been great, and I don't know if I need to change anything. So we'll see. But guys, this is kind of like just the process on a monthly basis. So as far as timing goes, I do the bookkeeping on a monthly basis, and I typically do it one time per month. So in one sitting after the close of the month, that's when I jump into the books. So let me just clarify what I'm trying to say, what I'm saying here. I'm not in my clients' QuickBooks accounts every single day. I'm not in their QuickBooks accounts every week. I wait until after the close of the month. So I won't even log into their QuickBooks account for an entire month until after the close of the month. And then I'll add in all the transactions from the previous 30, 31 days. And that is just the way I do it. And a lot of other bookkeepers will disagree with that. They'll think, oh, it's too much work at the end of the month. It's too overwhelming. But in my opinion, when you jump into a client and jump out, when you log into a bank account, when you log out, it just adds time. Every time you touch a client, it just adds time. Even if it's 5 minutes, it disrupts your day, it adds time. And so I try to touch the client as little as possible. And like I said, in the beginning, you're working with the client a lot more. You're getting you're getting more emails. You have more phone calls. But when I get into that cruise control mode, after a few months of working with a client, once they're in what I call cruise control, then it is that I'm in that client one time per month after the close of the month. And sometimes it takes 15 minutes to get the job done. Other times it takes about an hour or 2 hours to get the client done. But then I'm done. Once I work on it, I do it in one sitting with everything at my disposal. I get the work done. I send the questions to the client and I mark it as complete. And so that's kind of the timing of it all. But let me jump into like what I'm doing. Like when I jump into QuickBooks, what am I doing in that hour? And so here's basically what I do. And like I said in the beginning, I'm creating rules. I'm saving. I'm favoriting certain reports in the POS platforms and the payroll platforms. And so like everything's like ready to go. I have the login information saved on a file. And so on a monthly basis, when I actually jump in, the first things I do are I download all the bank statements. So I save the bank statements, the payroll reports, and the whatever other reports might be helpful. I save it all to a Google Drive. And so I have a Google Drive folder for each of my clients, and I have a folder for each month. And so, for example, Joe's Plumbing Company might have a folder for the month of October, and in that folder, will be in the year of 2025. And in that folder, I'll have the bank statements and everything else that's important. Like if a client emails me an invoice for a big purchase, or if there's like a sale of real estate and I have the HUD statement, I'm going to save all that stuff in that folder for future reference. And so the first thing is gathering information. The second step is the bank feed. And so the bank feed in QuickBooks is like the most important thing. You have to know the bank feed. You have to get comfortable with it. You have to know how it works. And when you jump into it, I just start at the top, and sometimes I'll like group it by like bank detail, or I'll just work through it kind of the beginning of the month, and I'll work my way down. But I typically add all the transactions that have a rule assigned, and I'll match any transactions that can be matched to like an invoice or a bill or a payment that was received. And so the first thing I do is I tackle the bank feed. I add every transaction to the books. If I'm not sure about a transaction, I'm typically doing a few things. I'm either Googling the bank detail. So if it's like a vendor that I'm not familiar with, I'll Google it first. If I'm still not sure, I'll typically just email the client. Oh, another thing I'll do too is I'll look at past historic, like how it was categorized in the past. And so QuickBooks has a cool way to show you the categorization history based on the vendor name. That's most of the time that's helpful. Sometimes it's not. Because if you don't have a vendor name in, it won't show up under that categorization history feature. So what I'll do is I'll either type in the search bar the bank detail, like the name of the vendor, or I will look at the general ledger report and do a Control F to try to find the detail. Sometimes it's like a transfer to a specific account ending in a certain number, and I'll just search that number in the general ledger, and I'll see if I can find it that way. So that's what I do. If I cannot figure it out on my own, then I will add it to uncategorized expense. And uncategorized expense is basically my holding account. So I'll hold it there, and that's the account that I will share with the client. And so I'll typically, at the end of the month, I'll download that to Excel, I'll clean it up, I'll clean up the bank detail a little bit, and I'll include like a table in the email that I send to my client. with all the transactions that I'm not sure about. And that's how I do it, guys. So I work my way through the bank feed, and that's kind of like step one. That's the first thing I do. I get all the transactions added into my clients' accounts. The second thing I do is I reconcile. So after all the transactions are in there, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that all the transactions are indeed in there. If there was anything that was added in manually, maybe by the client or maybe by me and I didn't realize it, or it wasn't matched correctly, or if there were transfers that weren't paired properly, the reconciliation process will catch that. And so I will reconcile the bank accounts, I'll reconcile the credit card accounts, sometimes I'll reconcile loans if applicable, like lines of credits or like other loans. And so I will do the reconciliation step next. And so once I have all that together, guys, I do a few things. A few things are important to me after I've reconciled. After I've added the transactions to the bank, I'll do a few things. So it all depends. Every client is unique. Every client is a little bit different, but these are a few things that are important to me. The sales. If they process sales with a credit card company, or if they use if they have a POS platform like Square or Toast or Heartland or Clover, any of those platforms will typically provide the client with like a net deposit. And so they will receive, most of the time it's like a daily or a weekly net deposit. And if I were to just post that net deposit to the income category, it wouldn't really tell me the full picture, and it wouldn't tie to a 1099K at the end of the year, which is important for tax purposes. So what I do is I break out the sales, and I'll typically do a journal entry. I'm not breaking out the sales by deposit. I'm not splitting every single transaction. I'll do a journal entry based on the report. So I'll download a monthly report. It'll show me the total sales. It'll show me the total like discounts and fees and gift cards that were used, tax liabilities, all that stuff. I will break out in a journal entry on a monthly basis. And so that's really important to me, is breaking out the sales. Another thing that's important is payroll. So I'll try to break out the payroll based off of the payroll reports from like ADP or Paychex or whatever other payroll company that I use. Now, if it's ADP or Gusto, they have an automatic integration with QuickBooks that makes it super easy. So an automatic journal entry comes in, and I can just match the payroll to that journal entry. And so I've really loved to integrate those things, but not every payroll platform does that. Like Paychex, for example, I don't know why, but they don't integrate with QuickBooks. Or maybe you can add in the comments if they do, but I'm pretty sure they don't. If they do, that's news to me, and I would be happy to find a way to do that. Another thing is loans. Whenever a loan payment is made, I'll split that payment between principal and interest. And so I need the statement for the loan to be able to do that. So sometimes it's not possible to get access to the client's loan accounts unless it's through the bank that they use. It can be tricky to get that information. And so I will typically ask the client for the statement. And if it's a hard client to work with, then I won't worry about it, and I'll typically ask them on like a quarterly basis, or even at the end of the year, I might just ask for the end of the year statement, and I'll guess as to the principal and interest in the meantime, just so that the client knows. But especially at the end of the year, the loans are the most important. The payroll is important. The Square, the POS platforms, those are important to tie to, especially at the end of the year, to make sure that everything ties for tax purposes so that it's all in there correctly. Other things I look at are the accounts receivable. Is there anything that's like really old, 90 days or older? Are there any negative balances in accounts receivable? If there are, it probably means that things weren't applied properly, and I need to go back and look at the deposits that were added from the bank feed. I'll look at accounts payable, same idea as accounts receivable. So those are the things that are important to me on a monthly basis. So I'll tackle all that. I'll go through the balance sheet. I'll make sure everything ties. And then I'll look at the profit and loss, and I'll look at it from like a high level point of view. I'll typically look at a couple of reports. I'll look at the profit and loss detail. And so I'll scan through the detail to make sure everything was categorized properly. Sometimes when I add transactions from like rules, things don't work properly. So I'll look at that. And then I'll look at like a profit and loss by month to look for different trends. If something's like way out of whack, I'll typically like take a look at that and try to get that figured out. Some things that are not important to me. So I know there are a lot of bookkeepers out there that do, in my opinion, they do too much. They're in the accounts every day or every week, and they're like, spinning their wheels, trying to make sure that they have a ton of detail in QuickBooks. And guys, detail is fine. I really leave it up to the client to determine how much detail is really needed. If I have a client that really cares about having the receipts, every receipt attached, or if they really want like a special memo for each category or for each transaction, if they want their like Amazon expenses broken out with detail, if they want, like their materials and supplies from Home Depot or Lowe's to be assigned to a project or to a class, like that, just if they want that, that's fine. But I will not do that unless they ask for it and unless they pay for it. So I will, if somebody wants like project or class tracking, I'll charge more for that. And if they're like a nonprofit and they have to adhere to a budget, I will charge more for that too, because it just requires a lot more detail on my end, and I can't just add things in bulk. A lot of my clients just don't care, and they say, hey, just so you know, anything that's to Amazon, put to supplies, or anything that's Home Depot, put to cost of goods sold. And so I will typically follow the client's lead on that, and whatever they say is kind of what I'll do. And I'll provide insights. I'll tell them what they should do and what they shouldn't do, what's important, what's not important, and they will dictate that level of detail. But I'm not doing more than what's required of me. And so that's really important. And again, guys, I'm not like a type A. I'm not a type A person. I don't obsess over the pennies. I don't obsess over things not being absolutely perfect. I will do the job well, and I will get what's done. I will get what's needed done. And so that's just my style, and it's worked really well for me. It's allowed me to be efficient, and I've been doing this for, over 10 years. I mean, I started my business about 4 years ago, but I've been doing bookkeeping and accounting for a long time. And at the end of the day, is it going to pass an audit? Are the numbers going to make sense to a client? And so that's what's most important to me. But I don't save receipts. I don't have like filing cabinets and invoices and payroll reports printed out everywhere. I just don't do that. I do the important stuff. And so guys, that's pretty much it. So after I've got all the information in, I create an email to the client, and I send the email to the client with my questions, with insights. Some of my clients sign up for like a little Loom video financial insight from me. And so I will send them a commentary on my thoughts on their financials. And some of them find that really helpful. It's just 5 minutes of me kind of walking through the numbers. And so I'll do that. But I'm not doing monthly meetings with my clients. I'm not calling my clients constantly. Again, guys, it's pretty low maintenance. I do this in one sitting and one sitting only, and that's the way to go. So let me think. Is there anything else I wanted to include here? I think that's it. I think everything I do. I mean, obviously, every client's going to be a little bit different. Every client's going to have some detail that's needed. I do offer. I do have my phone number and my email open. Like anybody can call me or email me at any point. There's unlimited conversation allowed for my clients. But if I do find that a client is especially needy, I may increase their price if it continues on past like 3 or 4 months. If they require a lot from me, if they're stressful to me, I will just add to their bookkeeping fee, and I'll make them pay for the stress that I'm experiencing. So guys, that's it. That's what I do on a monthly basis for all 50 of my clients. I manage it now with an employee, and so it's much more manageable than it was before. But for a long time, I was able to just do it myself. I would say you could probably do it yourself for about 30 to 40 clients per month. But then once you get to that 30, 40 client mark, it does become difficult to do yourself, and it does become a little bit stressful. I have an employee. She basically handles about 45 of my clients per month, and she does a really good job. And I review it, and then I send it to the client, and I maintain all of the client relationships and everything like that. So guys, that's it. I really appreciate it. If you stuck around this long, thank you. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I post periodically. I'm not on any set schedule, so whenever I want to, I do it. And then if you can like this video, if it was helpful for you, that would be helpful to me. And I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.